Hey guys, what's going on? I just wanted to hop on here really fast to share a story with you that happened to me like 3 weeks ago. I hope it's encouraging to you, and I hope you feel a little bit more uplifted when I finish. So about, like I said, 3 weeks ago, I went into Harmon's to get some hair products for this quarantine before like the quarantine became the quarantine of the quarantinist. I went in there because they always have, and this is not an ad or anything, they always have this promo going on where it's, if you buy $30 worth of Shea Moisture, then you get a $10 gift card back that you can go and use again. I know it's like addicting. I know it's addicting for me because I love Shea Moisture products. But anyway, so I get to the register and the guy is ringing up all of, the products that I have. And so I ask him, I'm like, hey, do you guys have the promo going on right now for the $30 and you get the $10 gift card? And he was like, oh no. And I was like, ooh, Lord. So I just kind of kept it, and like I sensed, because I'm kind of like an empath, whatever, I feel. And so I felt like something was wrong and like something was going on. So I asked him and I was like, would you mind finding out for me? And he was like kind of reluctant. And so he sent his coworker to go look. So the coworker came back and he said, we're not doing it right now. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. And I was like, hey, are you having a bad day? And he was like, why? And I was like, because the way you're talking to me, I can sense that. I'm not the type of person to like address how somebody is like outside of me. Like I will walk out of the store and pray for you on the way out. Like I'm not that kind of like on site, like what's good with you. But for whatever reason I felt led to do that, so I did it. And politely was like, yeah, that's what I'm feeling, how you're acting towards me. And he was just like, honestly, I'm just waiting for my heart to stop, and I'm waiting for like the worst thing to happen. I was like, oh wow, this escalated fast. So in that moment I was just like, wow, Lord, like he's really going through it. So I just tried to encourage him, and I was like, look, there's breath in your body for a reason. You were put here on purpose for a purpose. Like you made it here safely for a reason. Things, I know you may be going through some things right now, but it's not the end. It's not the end all be all. Like you're gonna get through it. Like I just tried to like plant seeds and like try to build him up a little, because if he's thinking that, like that's a really low state. He looked at me, he was just like, thank you. And I said, no problem. I said, have a good day. And I walked out. And when I got to my car, I was like, God, like he really had no hope. He had no hope for the next minute of his life, because he was waiting for his heart to stop, and he was waiting for the worst case scenario to happen to him. And I was like about to cry. That's such a deep, dark place to be in. And so it caused me to kind of self-reflect and like, what do I see hope as? Because in that moment I noticed he didn't have any. So, growing up in the church, you kind of become kind of familiar with different phrases or different words, like love, faith, hope, joy, peace. You become so familiar that you just use them, and you don't really take time to dig deep into what they actually really mean and what they actually do for you spiritually and what they actually do for your physical body and your mental health. So I took some time and I did some research on hope, and by definition, hope is a feeling of expectation and desire for a certain thing to happen. Biblically, hope is the confident expectation of what God has promised, and its strength is in his faithfulness. And I also found like some more practical things about hope. Hope can help make a tough present situation seem more bearable, and hope helps to improve our lives by having us envision a better future for ourselves. Another thing I found out about hope is looking on the bright side, seeing challenges as opportunities. And I feel like right now, as not only a nation, but as a world, we are faced with a challenge right now, the coronavirus. And we're faced with not only that challenge, but the branches of that one particular thing. Loss of jobs shutting down, people getting sick, people dying, all of these different, not being able to pay rent, not being able to pay your bills, not being like, this whole thing is affecting our ecosystem. It's affecting our well-being. It's affecting our mental health. It's really hard. to sometimes get past what we're being fed via social media, what we're being fed via the news and the different news outlets. But one thing that I'm finding is that we can look at it not only as a challenge, but as an opportunity. Right now, we have the opportunity to reflect. We have the opportunity to spend time with our loved ones. We have the opportunity to reprioritize what we see as important, what we see as meaning the most to us. Because like when you go through different things and you're stripped of different things, you begin to realize that sometimes you don't really need some of the things that you thought were as important as they were to you. And we're at like a global pause right now. This quarantine, you know, it can really have you in your feelings. Don't listen to Drake, by the way. It can really have you thinking different thoughts and seeing different things. But taking those thoughts and kind of shifting the perspective of it to see that it's an opportunity to be creative. It's an opportunity to be innovative. I read somewhere when there was like, I think the Black Plague or something like that. Some of the greatest people that we know today, like the Albert Einsteins and the different people who were super creative and innovative, they had their best creations during that time. Like all they had time was to think and to create and to be the masterminds that they were. And they were able to help us, you know, electricity. They were able to help us with all the different things that we have now, technology. So I would encourage you now to like take this time to really use the creative gift that you have to help the world in whatever way you can. If it's, you know, ordering pizza for different healthcare workers in your community, or it's praying for somebody who's really going through a challenging time, whether they're grieving or they're going through whatever they're going through, standing in the gap. Because one thing I noticed is that when you help other people, sometimes it almost gives you hope, gives you a boost, the boost that you need. Because if you just kind of stay within yourself and you're just wallowing in your feelings and your emotions, you can get consumed and caught up and in a space that you don't need to be. But if you're constantly trying to be proactive and you're trying to help other people or be there for others, like it gives you strength. There was this quote that I found where it said, "Hope is a match in a dark tunnel, a moment of light and just enough to reveal the path ahead and ultimately the way out." And I feel like with this quarantine and with this virus, it can seem like we're in a dark tunnel. But hope is that light that will give us what we need to make it through this time, because this time is temporary. This time is truly temporary. It's a season of life. Hurricanes come, tornadoes come, avalanches, wherever you live, different things come that we have no control over, but they ultimately have an ending. They do. So I just wanted to hop on here and encourage you guys also. I found some scriptures that are helping me, that help me kind of dissect the experience that I had at Harmon's. Proverbs 13:12 says, "Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life." And in that moment, the guy at the register, his hope was deferred. His heart was sick. He couldn't see past what he was going through and what he was dealing with. He had no hope. But a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. Something inside of you that you can see, that you hold on to, is what can give us life during this time. Hebrews 6:19 says that we have this hope as an anchor for our soul. And typically what the Bible talks about with hope is that Jesus is our hope, that God's faithfulness to his promises is the hope that we hold on to during times like this. Because although things are like constantly moving, constantly changing, seeming like we're unstable and it's uncertain, there are constants that are here. The sun, I constantly look at the sun and I see it as a promise that God kept. That's the same sun that was at the beginning of creation. It's the same sun that's here right now. It did not change. It did not move. It did not do anything. It still functions as it's supposed to. That's a promise. The moon, even though the moon has different phases where sometimes it looks like a crescent or a fingernail or whatever, it's still the moon. It's still the same moon that he put there. And although, like I said, things are very uncertain, there are promises that God has given us that we need to hold on to as anchors during this time, that will keep us feeling sustained, that will keep our emotions intact, that will keep our hearts at peace and at ease. But hope is that thing. It's that thing that keeps that spark within us, to have us to keep fighting, to have us to keep being strong and to keep standing and to not bow to this fight. It's a fight and we're not going to let it win. We're not going to let Corona win. Rona, as they say, we're not going to let Rona win. We're not going to let any of these other things that come up win. We're going to stand firm. We're going to stand strong. We're going to stand on God's word, and we're going to fight, and we're going to be resilient, and we're going to win. One last scripture, one that motivated me to kind of even make this video, 1 Thessalonians 5:11. It says, so encourage each other and build each other up just as you are doing. As I'm talking to you, I'm also speaking to myself, to just kind of look at this time as a time for reflection. Look at this time as a time for charging your battery, as a time for just seeing things for what they are, a time for reprioritizing your life, reprioritizing what you do every day, reprioritizing who you felt was important, taking advantage of the time with your families and just loving on them and holding them close and tight. Just taking this time to really make the best of it. Because, you know, things are uncertain, but God is greater than any uncertainty that we could ever have, or any uncertainty that could come up out of nowhere. So yeah, I love you guys, and I hope this little story time message was really encouraging for you. All right, bye.